Get ready for an electrifying night of classical music as the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra presents Prokofiev's prowess. Guest pianist Ilya Yakushev brings fire and energy to Prokofiev's Piano Concerto No. 3. The night opens with the graceful wit of Mozart's Symphony No. 27 and closes with Bizet's joyful Symphony in C. Join the WCO on Friday, January 30th at 7:30 p.m. Tickets are available at wcoconcerts.org/Prokofiev. Want to win the Madison Summer Camp Rush? Behold Wonder Palette Camp. The local creative art camp in Middleton at Sauk Trail Elementary is open for registration. Campers ages 6 to 12 will find an energetic and supportive environment to explore their creative passions. They offer 4 separate weeks of camp, each unique, and each week has 4 days of fun in the culinary arts, arts and crafts, theater, and dance. Register today at wonderpaletecamp.com. This is CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Today, it's Thursday, so of course it's time to dish on Madison's food and bar scene. And we've got great news in the scene. Last week, the James Beard Foundation announced its 2026 semifinalists, and Madison was well represented on that list. Joining me to talk about the excitement is Captime's food and culture editor, Lindsay Christians. Lindsay, hello!
Hi!
I am so ready for some good news, and this is really great news. There's a lot to be excited about, and let's just jump right into it. Like, what happened? What's the news? Who are Madison's shiny stars that got some James Beard nods?
This was such a joyful day. I just spent the entire day watching Instagram as people realized that they'd been named semifinalists in the 2026 James Beard Awards, which James Beard Awards used to call itself actually the Oscars of food, and then the Oscars apparently got mad, so now they put it in quotes. It's the Oscars of food in quotes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which is very cute to me. But the James Beard Awards are a very, very big deal in the culinary world. They give awards out for restaurants, chefs, bars, cookbooks, food journalism, advocacy, people who have done amazing things in the industry. And this year we have 3 Madison semifinalists. Casey Lee Cook is the chef at Mint Mark. He is up for Best Chef Midwest. Hastings Cameron at Imaginary Factory is up for Outstanding Professional in Cocktail Service, which is a long title.
Yeah.
And Public Parking, a bar that we love over on East Johnson, is up for Best New Bar.
Those are really big ones. Those are big hitters. So it's getting so many nods is so exciting. You know, with 3 semifinalists in town this year, it feels like our city is getting so much love. Would you identify this as a banner year for Madison in terms of the James Beard recognition?
I think it's actually pretty typical for Madison to have somewhere between 2 and I think at most 5 nods on the long list. So the semifinalist list is the long list, and March 31st, I believe, they will release the nominees, and there are only 5 generally per category once we get down to the nominees. And if you're a nominee, then you go to the big gala in June because you might win. And you got to go up on stage and accept your award. So the semifinalist list, it's pretty typical for Madison to have some representation on that longer list. So in previous years, Jamie Brown Sukasume has been up for Emerging Chef, and she was up for Best Chef Midwest last year. 2 years ago, I believe, Pasture and Plenty was up for a National Hospitality Award on the long list. Coco Va Siavada Idari was up for Pastry Chef. Sean Farr, also at Mint Mark, has been on the list for Best Chef Midwest. The menu, which we'll talk about in a little bit at Mint Mark, is Casey's menu now. He's doing that menu. So he's the one who's up for the award this year because it is a chef award, not a restaurant award, if that makes sense. And we've had winners here. Wisconsin actually has brought home several wins in recent years. Dane Baldwin at the Diplomat in Milwaukee won a few years ago. Our own Itaro Nagano and Andrew Kroger won at Fairchild in 2023, which was the most recent major win for Madison and a very exciting moment.
Oh my gosh. So it's kind of an embarrassment of riches, but these latest jewels to our crown feel good.
Yeah.
And I know this is the semifinalist. So Lindsay, for those of us who aren't food writers, can you explain the James Beard Awards and like how this nomination process works?
Absolutely. So the James Beard Awards, I think, gave their first awards in 1991. So that's about how long they've been around. They give awards in several different categories, right? So there's restaurants, chefs, bars, as I mentioned. There's food journalism, food advocacy. They give cookbook awards. They've really had an evolution post-2020. They did cancel the awards one year, and then they went through this kind of big reevaluation of their processes. The way that the Beard Awards work now is anybody can nominate anyone. You can nominate yourself if you want to. There's this sort of open call. I get a press release every fall that's like, open call, open call. And anybody can say, I really love this restaurant and I think that they should win in this category, and put them in, right?
Okay.
And then there are something like 600 judges around the country in all the different areas that make the decisions, or inform the decisions, I should say, that lead to the semifinalist list and then the nominee list and the winners. So there are, food professionals, there are absolutely influencers, journalists, people who have been previous winners. The awards cover all kinds of different types of food businesses. So there's bakery, pastry chef. There are new awards relatively recently for beverages. So new bar is a new award in the past couple of years. Yeah. So the way that it kind of works is there's this open call in the fall and in the winter. And then at the end of January, typically we get this long list, and then we'll see kind of who progresses as we get into the spring.
Yeah. Do we know how long we have to wait until we find out if our superstars become finalists and have the opportunity to then become winners?
March 31st is the day that the nominees will drop.
Oh
so,
my gosh.
And then I think it's the second week in June is this big gala. It's in Chicago every year at the Lyric Opera House, and everybody gets all dressed up and walks the red carpet. And that's a very joyful event as well.
Oh my gosh. That's so fun. And one of the big nods, the best chef of the Midwest, is a really interesting category. Lindsay, can you tell us a little bit about that one and how it's contained?
Yes. So when we think of the Midwest, I know I always include Chicago. Chicago is not part of our region here in the Midwest, according to the James Beard Awards. So, yeah.
Only the population center of the Midwest.
Right. Yeah. So Great Lakes is technically Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio. So that's the Great Lakes region, and they are their own region. We, the Midwest, are Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota and South Dakota, Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, and Kansas. So we have kind of this upper and lower, part to our region, but it's a pretty big region. And so for Best Chef Midwest, Casey Cook at Mint is going to be up against not only chefs from Milwaukee and from the Twin Cities, but also chefs from Kansas City and Omaha and different places in Iowa and Nebraska. So there are definitely a wide variety of folks in that category in different stages of their careers, but all doing some of the most innovative, creative, wonderful cooking in the Midwest.
Oh my gosh. Well, what do you know about Casey Lee Cook, the semifinalist?
A little bit. So he did a Cooking with the Cap Times event with us, I think last summer.
Nice.
And so I did a little background research on him then. He trained in Chicago for about 8 years. Worked for Dave Park, notably at Jiang, which is a Korean-inspired tasting menu restaurant in Chicago. He was in LA for a little bit, and then he worked at Brazen Open Kitchen in Dubuque. That's when he came to the Midwest. And then Sean Farr, the chef owner of Mint Mark, saw his Instagram and was like, oh yeah, I vibe with this guy. I think I want to bring him in for an interview. So Casey came up as Mint Mark was opening its newer location over on East Wash. That was coming at a time when I think Sean really wanted to be diversifying into some of his other projects. He also owns Hanks and the Muskie, as you know. And they're also hopefully going to be opening a bar at the top of the Eastern where Mint Mark is now. So I think Sean wanted to move into some different things and not be in the kitchen all of the time. And Casey has now taken over the Mint Mark menu and is doing some great stuff.
Yeah, and according to, social media, it definitely seems like they have a huge bromance and they love it. Of course, all those guys have a bromance, but yeah, it's cool to see this happen. This guy came here and he's already potentially bringing awards to the city. And as you mentioned, Lindsay, Sean Farr's already gotten some nods and recognition back in 2020 and 2024. Sean Farr is also a long list for Best Chef of Midwest. So there's obviously something happening here. I'm sure the name recognition doesn't hurt. But how would you, if you have a sense, describe the differences between the two chefs? Or similarities?
I mean, I think that there are more similarities than differences. I think that Sean is very into like terrines and force meat, and like his cooking is very nose to tail, which I really like a lot. Casey loves smoking stuff. Like loves to smoke stuff. There's a lot of smoke things. There was one menu he did, it was like maybe last summer. I was like, everything on this menu has some smoke in it, like every single one. Because he's like, yeah, I was into it, Sean has said that the reason that he reached out to Casey and really vibed with him is because he cooks like a Polish grandma.
Oh, beautiful. We all want one of those.
So there's still a lot of like Eastern European influence on that menu. It reminds me sometimes of Muriel in St. Paul, which was our Best Chef Midwest winner last cycle in 2025, where it's this very kind of cozy, comforting, what I think of as like Eastern European sort of upper Midwestern food, but done with really excellent technique. There are always some fresh pastas on the Mint Mark menu. Casey has continued that. The pizzettas, I believe, are new. Like, I don't think Sean was ever really doing pizzettas.
What's a pizzetta?
Little pizzas.
A little pizza. Oh, sure.
Yeah. So I think it's really wonderful to see some of the OG Mint Mark dishes still on that list, like the biscuit and the cauliflower remain on the menu. And then you see that most of the rest of it is really sort of Casey doing really lovely, thoughtful things with very seasonal ingredients.
Let's talk about Best New Bar, Public Parking being a semifinalist. Man, I talked with my longtime friend and co-owner, J.R. Mokanu, after the bar was featured in Bon Appetit. And, listeners got to hear a bit about public parking then. They have gotten quite the fanfare. Why do you think that public parking is making such a splash?
I think they're really pushing forward. I think that when you look at what the James Beard Awards are recognizing, they're looking for excellence, but also like innovation and like the next thing, right? So a place that is doing wonderful classics fairly consistently, I don't know that that's necessarily going to catch the eye of a James Beard judge or person who's like looking for this as much as something that's like doing something really creative and different, but still very rooted in place, which is not to say one is better than the other, but I think, having watched these awards for so many years, I do think it's like we're doing stuff with like more savory ingredients and we're using technique. Like there's technique on that menu, right? And it's beyond just a certain kind of syrup or they're making their own bitters.
Right. Well, public parking actually has like a kitchen area, They're going hard in the sauce in every way.
Yeah. It's funny, I ran into Jack Yip, who's the co-owner of Public Parking, the other day, and they were talking about the kitchen is actually like in the basement of Public Parking. And I was like, oh, underground kitchen.
Nice. Yeah,
Hey.
and there's that history on that block with underground kitchen.
Or underground parking, whatever you want,
They probably should have a sign underground parking down there. As you shared, Lindsay, the award for Best New Bar didn't exist until recently, but there were different ways that James Beard awarded liquors and wines and drinking in spots that are doing it well. We haven't had a bar program recognized in Madison since 2012, when the Old Fashioned, which is technically a restaurant, was given recognition. And then L'Etoile back in 2022 for their wine program. So were you surprised that Public Parking was able to get in there and get us some drinking nods?
I think Milwaukee is often more dominant in this category. So Bryant's Cocktail Lounge has been up for Outstanding Bar a few times before. Agency was up for Best New Bar last year in Milwaukee. This year, the Mothership is up for Outstanding Bar, which is a Bayview corner bar. Very cool. I went there a couple months ago with my friend who lives in that neighborhood, and it's just a great, cool, fun bar where they're doing really interesting drinks, and they have a lot of signs up that say, we don't do everything.
Yeah. Well, actually, and when I talked to JR about public parking, they were helping the Mothership out because of the flooding that was crazy. So I know they're a really huge community and actually a big part of helping out public parking to become who they are today.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I like to see that kind of collaboration. But public parking is really, as I mentioned, they're pushing creativity. It's a fun bar, but they also, both public parking and the Mothership also do classics really well.
They do, yeah.
Yeah. I love to go to public parking and get one of the fun seasonal things that they're doing, something with ingredients I would never think to put in a cocktail. And my husband is sitting there with his daiquiri so happy.
Yes. They make a killer daiquiri. And let's keep moving because there's one more to really focus on, the Outstanding Professional in Cocktail Service. Last but definitely not least, my buddy Hastings Cameron, longtime Madison bartender and owner of Imaginary Factory on the East Side, is the semifinalist for Outstanding Professional in Cocktail Service. I am a huge fan of Hastings cocktails and style. And I remember you and I, Lindsay, chatting about how Imaginary Factory was kind of underrated and for sure a hidden gem. I think in part because of its tucked away location. It's in a happening area except for just right outside of it, just in a little weird corridor. But looky here, Hastings is getting his due. What can you tell us about Hastings Cameron and Imaginary Factory?
So I ran into Hastings maybe 15 years ago when he was working with the Underground Food Collective folks.
Yeah.
And he was doing the drink menu over at Underground Kitchen. He worked a little bit at Tornado when Underground burned and was doing a lot of pop-ups. And so I'd run into him at pop-ups. And then when Four Quarter opened, I just remember him always coming out from the back and being look like a Cambro of something, Cambros are these large plastic containers that are used pretty often in food service. And he would be infusing something or clarifying something or doing these weird concoctions. It was very mad scientist vibes. And
we should say Four Quarter because a lot of people probably don't even know Four Quarter if they moved here recently. It was in what is now Hot Lunch.
Yes,
and it was
correct.
an incredible place to eat. Carry on.
Yes. And the thing with Four Quarter is everything had some kind of fermentation involved in it, right? Every dish had some fermented element or something that had been preserved or transformed in some way to prolong its life because it was very much about using seasonal ingredients for as long as possible and sourcing really locally. And Hastings absolutely picked up that aesthetic. He was doing some of the most creative, weird, delicious things at Gibbs when Gibbs opened. He was part of that. And I think it is so wonderful to see Hastings getting recognition for his work at Imaginary Factory because it is just the last in a line of things that he has done to sort of say, wait, why does it have to be this way? Why do we have to purchase that ingredient? We could make our own, coffee liqueur. We could make our own orgeat. We could make our own tinctures and infusions. And when my husband and I went by a few weeks ago, and my husband was asking, how do you clarify? How do you clarify this cocktail? How do you fat wash? How do you clarify, basically, to get a cocktail that is clear but has a really rich, feeling in your mouth where it's, very smooth and kind of unctuous almost. And Guy Hoff, who is the bartender there, just went in the back and brought a Cambro out. And I was like, this is so perfect.
Full circle. Yeah.
Yes.
The Cambro persists. It's such a good point, and I'm glad that you laid it out and all of the experiences that he has made for people in Madison for years, right? And this being the latest and getting recognition. Truly an innovator and definitely, one of Madison's culinary geniuses. So this is super exciting. And I also want to shout out one of the other folks, a star of the operation, Hastings' business partner, Kelsey. They're a duo in so many important ways. And if you've been into Imaginary Factory, there's a very good chance chance that Kelsey also served you. She provides excellent service, does a killer job with the Instagram and photos. So she's the creative lead online. And extra shout out to Kelsey because I found out a couple years ago by marriage, she's my cousin. So
that's amazing.
I'm like, small world, Madison.
It's so small. It's really true.
Yeah.
I think that some of these categories are really challenging because, like, for example, Best Chef Midwest is an award for a chef, a single chef usually, or maybe a duo. So like Dan Jacobs and Dan Van Wright at Esterev last year were nominated together. But something like Outstanding Professional in Cocktail Service is a person. And it's so hard because as soon as Mintmark got its nod, Casey was like, it's my team, it's my team, it's my team, because nobody can do these things alone. And I also think that, like, when you go into a restaurant or a bar, Hastings could be doing amazing stuff back there with the cocktails, but if the bartender never comes over to you or they seem annoyed that you're there, you're not going to enjoy it nearly as much. It's a huge part of any of these awards, I think. And I think it's such a credit to the people in Madison who are up for these awards that they immediately are, all of them are like, it's not just me, it's my team. It's my team. It's these people with me.
Yeah. Take note, folks, if you're bartenders or whatnot. Like, it actually matters how you treat people. You don't know who's going to be watching your service. And it just surprises me sometimes when bartenders are acting annoyed that you're there. But there's like a handful of that in Madison still. And I'm like, yeah, it's crazy to me. So yeah, none of that at Imaginary Factory. All good vibes in my experience.
I will say I was a restaurant critic for 13 years and people would always ask, do you get made? People must know what you're doing. You must say what you're doing. And I'm like, no, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised at how obvious it is a lot of the time when you're reviewing a restaurant that people have no idea what you're doing. Because if they did know, they would make different choices.
I always feel like somebody's watching me. It's a critic.
Oh, God.
No, I'm honestly like, it's kind of cool. I mean, and for what we're speaking about, it's the good stuff, like good work being clocked. And that's what we're talking about. And truly great service. And, you know, I do want to talk about the competition here and the stakes. Like, you shared a little bit who we're up against, but do you have any predictions? Like, is this going to be a great year for us? What are we thinking?
I mean, the Midwest has been pretty dominant. Last year, we took home some national awards. Boucheron in Minneapolis was Best New Restaurant in the country. And that was really exciting. Being from the upper Midwest, Casey Cook at Mintmark has some pretty stiff competition. There are 19 other chefs in this category. Among them, Zach Baker at Calucanzo in Wauwatosa, a wonderful pasta Italian restaurant, absolutely gorgeous. Karanomice, that's Shigeyuki Furukawa in Minneapolis, is doing omakase, which we talked about, I think, the last time I was here.
Did.
Which is, that's a style of sushi that it means I leave it up to you, where they give you this lovely, many courses of sushi. Another omakase sushi chef, David Utterback, was a front runner last year. He was a nominee in this category. The common lore among chefs that I've heard for many years is that, you never win your first year up. Now, that was not true for Itaru and for Andrew.
Right.
So it's, just because it's often true does not mean it's always true. But there are some folks on this list that I think are pretty strong competition. So Diane Mua from Diane's Place in Minneapolis. Yia Vang, also from Minneapolis, also doing Hmong food at Vinay. That's a gorgeous restaurant. I went there recently when I was up in Minneapolis, and it was absolutely beautiful. The bar program there is excellent. So there's some strong competition. Oro Barnixta, also in Minneapolis, is Gustavo Romero and Kate Romero. They are nixtamalizing their own corn. They're making these gorgeous, fresh tortillas, the best tortilla you will have in your life. And it's just so beautiful. And they're doing it, food is political. They're doing it in the context of half of their kitchen couldn't show up because they're afraid to leave their homes because of the threat of ICE. So I think the fact that we have some of these restaurants and we're able to celebrate this in the context that we are all living in, it's a gift to be able to celebrate. It's also part of the conversation, right? And that we think this is an exciting competition. I'm really excited to see who wins. And I think that it would be disingenuous to separate it from all of the pressures and things that people are dealing with in the Midwest, no matter where you're cooking.
It really is. Thank you for saying that. And just to all of the people My heart's just going out so hard right now. So I'm absolutely thankful for this conversation and that we have wonderful, positive things to try in our community and just know how hard people work. So it's cool, just the process of folks getting recognition. And at this end point of the conversation, I want to end on a little fun. You and I pulled together our ideal night/day out at these recognized spots and their great talent. So dealer's choice, I'm going to have you start, Lindsay. What's your ideal night or day hitting all these 3 spots? And what is your order for each?
So I think I'm starting at public parking. I'm starting with a draft La Louisiane. I love the draft cocktails at public parking. I also really love the Rose Lied About Never Letting Go, which has like lovely tea in it. And I really love that cocktail. It's like really fresh and like super balanced and delicious. But the Rose Lied About Never Letting Go or the draft La Louisiane, I'm starting there with my husband. We're going to play some cribbage. He's going to get a daiquiri. Then we're going to Mint Mark. I'm having the oyster mushrooms. We can never not order the oyster mushrooms because my husband works at Vitruvian, and that's where the mushrooms come from, and he loves them. I'm a little obsessed with the smoked carrots. I've been always getting those every time we go. If they ever have the sugo back on the menu, no matter what it is, sometimes it's a butternut squash sugo, sometimes it's a sun gold tomato sugo. It's just a lovely pasta. I love that. I usually get a pizzetta. I'm kind of obsessed with the pizzettas.
Now that I know what it is, I am too.
Yeah.
Pizzetta.
Really, really good. So getting like a bunch of yummy little small plates there. If it's a special occasion, we do get the skillet cookie. I know that it's like iconic from the old Mint Mark. We don't get it every time we go, but every time we do, it feels like a holiday. And then we're finishing it out. I would like to finish at Imaginary Factory for a couple of reasons. It tends to be really chill. Like, it's not as busy buzzy as some of the other bars, and I think that might change with this award, but we'll see. But I love their clarified milk punches. I mentioned that earlier. The one that I had recently was called the Imaginary Russian, which has Imaginary Factory vodka, their own coffee liqueur. It's like a Nespresso vodka, like Nespresso. Like the Nespresso pods, and then coconut milk, and they wash it. So it's like this, it tastes like super creamy like a White Russian, but it's clear. And it's absolutely delicious. So that's my order. What's your order?
That is an incredible night and set of orders. I know that we discussed an ideal night, but I changed it around and I'm doing all day. So I'm going to actually start at Mint Mark on a Sunday and for their Sunday brunch, because turning this into an all-day affair only feels right. These spots deserve it. I love Mint Mark's colors and decor, and at brunch time, the natural light in there pours in just the right way on that sparkling mimosa. So that's one reason. I'd probably pick the chicken and waffles because I'm just a longtime fan of that dish. And if you do need my Mint Mark dinner order so I can be somewhat fair, because that's part of what they're being recognized, I agree with you. The smoked Vitruvian carrot is fire. It stays fire. That is fantastic. But yeah, doing brunch and then moving on to Imaginary Factory for me second, because they're open at 3 on Sundays. And frankly, every time I drink their stuff, I feel healthier. I'm picking like anti-inflammatory drinks.
We order differently.
I mean, at Imaginary Factory specifically, I just had chicken and waffles, so keep that in mind. So so typically I would go for one of their house cocktails, and a staple on their menu is called the Imaginary Orange, and that's Imaginary Factory bubbly with citrus, carrot, turmeric, and black pepper. So I've always loved their vegetal drinks so much. I feel like other places do vegetal drinks, but I feel like they do it best. I'm just going to say that.
The garden salad is so good. It's got bell pepper in it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I feel like they just kill it in that game, and they're always light and refreshing. And the ideal is to undo some of the damage that both I'm going to continue to do that day and have already done with fried foods. But yeah, so then I would end my night at public parking for a Sunday industry night vibe. And just wanting that neighborhood vibe, there's just warm wood in there, 60s decor. And at this point, I'm probably feeling adventurous, which is great for public parking. And I've checked out their latest menu, and the drink I would go to from their originals list is my dream cocktail, period, cute. So buckle in for the ingredients on that one. It's got gin, Ming River Baijiu, shoshu, fermented green apple, lemon, white miso, ramen broth, MSG, sesame, Bitter Queen's Thai spice bitters, spicy pickled tofu, and bamboo basil. I mean, that being a dream, my favorite food is ramen. So the fact that there's a ramen cocktail is out of this world and feels very public parking. And yeah, I feel like I would have had most of my taste buds happy by that point in the night.
Do you like spicy in your cocktails?
I love spicy in my cocktails. I love mezcal.
Fun.
I love salts. Yeah, I'm a super savory galley. That said, I love public parkings. Like, they've had some cocktails that come with little sweet treats, like a little tart.
Little tart. Yeah, it's really cute, that little tart. I also often will get the sushi because there's jackknife sushi there. And I think that is one of my favorite things, honestly, about public parking is because sometimes I do want to go out to like a wonderful cocktail bar. I adore Robin Room. I love it so much. But I have to eat a food. I have to eat something. And I have like this much time in my night, right? Because I do have to work in the morning. So I'm like, okay, I can hit both at public parking, and the number of times I've gotten that pear pressure roll. Oh my God. I love it so much, and it saves me every time. So like another reason I love public parking.
Another reason to love public parking. You can have your food needs met. These are some real star players here. And talking about sushi, I'm just going to ask before we end the conversation, when does Madison get an omakase? Do we have one?
We do not have one. I don't know. Wisconsin just got its first omakase like a year ago. And that restaurant, 1033 Omakase, is up for Best New Restaurant.
Yeah.
So, which is exciting. But
spread the word.
We just have one. I had omakase in Madison a couple of weeks ago because David Utterback came to visit, and he did a pop-up at Fairchild for 8 people up at the bar in 2 seatings. So like 16 people total. And it was a very exclusive, like fancy night. I felt like very fancy. But he's so laid back and cool. And so I think that maybe what we might see is chefs like that just testing the waters. Not that David Utterback is going to come here, but that Itaru might be like, oh, there is an appetite for this kind of dining. What I imagine will be more likely to happen is that Red will have, like they've done omakase pop-ups where they've done it like once every quarter or once every other month or whatever, just because to source the fish for that is challenging. You have to make sure that like you're using it when you need to use it. So sourcing the fish is challenging, and it's very expensive because we don't live near where the fish comes from. So it's just expensive to do, and it's expensive to get here, but it's such a beautiful style. And I think that the chefs in the Midwest who are doing omakase are doing it for a Midwestern audience, which I really enjoy.
Sure. Well, we're going to try speak it into existence here. And at the very least, a shout out to all of our local innovators in the food scene, and especially these folks who made the long list. We're just so proud. And yeah, we're going to be rooting for you for the next step. And Lindsay, really appreciate you coming on and just talking about our creative badass scene and bringing us all the background on the James Beard. It's been really informative and fun.
Thank you.
That's Lindsay Christians, food and culture editor at the Cap Times. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm your host, Bianca Martin. Don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Madison neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this episode with someone who likes good food and drinks? All right, and if you're feeling the love, leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate it, and it helps other folks find us. If you have something nice to say, you like what you're hearing, you're getting good stuff, leave us a review. Alrighty, we'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, take good care, and thanks for listening.